Hey guys, Josh from SoccerReviewsForYou.com, bringing you an unboxing plus on-feet video of the brand new indoor Nike Mercurial Superfly 4 in the Hyper Punch Volt and Metallic Gold colorway. Now inside the box, just like you'd get with a standard pair of Superfly 4s in either FG, SG, or AG, a string bag is included. It's the exact same string bag, Hyper Punch pink in color, your black strings, a black Nike logo on the one side, and your black Nike football branding on the other. So we'll get that out of the way. And other than that, all you're going to find inside the box are the shoes themselves. So we'll get these out of the box really quickly. And if you guys could take a second to leave a like on the video, it would be greatly appreciated. So here is a look at the very interesting release that is the Superfly 4 Indoor Court. So as you can see, it features a flat indoor court bottom. So this is technically for use in like a gym, an indoor type of environment. I guess even for street soccer, it is definitely usable because it is a flat bottom, as you can see. But pretty much everything else about this shoe is exactly the same as a standard pair of Superflies. It features the Flyknit upper, your Brio cables, the Nike skin covering, even ACC, and of course the mid-cut dynamic fit collar. So we're going to be talking about all of what this shoe is all about throughout today's video. The retail price on these guys was $150 US. I believe they released yesterday and pretty much sold out instantly. It was a very, very limited release despite how it was marketed by Nike. I believe there was only a couple hundred pairs allocated to North America. Not sure how many Europe got, but just please keep in mind that as of right now, you pretty much can't buy these in stores. They sold out everywhere the first day that they were available. And I'm not sure if there are any plans to release future colorways of this shoe at all. I just thought it was a little bit interesting that it was such a limited release, and I think that this is more or less Nike testing the waters as far as how many people would be interested in kind of Nike taking their high-end flagship outdoor models and turning them into indoor models that maybe even be a little bit more pricey than a standard pair of indoor shoes. But obviously, since they sold out, there was no shortage of people willing to pay $150 for a Superfly 4 indoor. So with that being said, let's get right into the video. Starting off with the colorway, as you can see, it's released in the same Hyper Punch Volt and Metallic Gold color that we saw for the rest of the Mercurial line. And the upper, as you can see, is the same Flyknit material with the same patterns and pretty much the same colors. There's no difference here whatsoever. Up close, you can see the Flyknit is a combination of that Hyper Punch pink and some Volt yellow kind of intertwined together. And again, something I want to stress with all the new Mercurials is that while they may appear to be like a deep red color online, in person it's more of a kind of pinkish orange as opposed to a red. So just please keep that in mind if you're planning on ordering. You can see the laces have that same combination of Hyper Punch pink and like an orange color. And really the only difference I could find as far as colorway is concerned is you can see on the laces here it says Mercurial Superfly, which I thought was a pretty cool little detail that you're not going to find on the standard firm ground, soft ground, or AG models, which I thought was kind of interesting, but I guess it doesn't make that big of a difference at the end of the day. You can see that you have your Nike skin covering here across the main area of the shoe. The top of the laces as well as the ankle area does not feature that Nike skin kind of covering, and it's just made from that high quality Flyknit. You can see that the Flyknit on the top layer is Hyper Punch and the underlay is Volt Yellow. Same goes right here. You can see that when you stretch it out a little bit, it kind of reveals that Volt Yellow underlay material. So again, the Flyknit is made up of several different layers. You have your black kind of top line here at the top of the dynamic fit collar, your black outline on both the main Nike swoosh and the medial Nike swoosh, as you guys can see, your black ACC branding, your black Mercurial branding right there. And as far as Volt Yellow is concerned, obviously that's the main color for the swoosh on both sides, with your metallic gold detail there on the inside, which looks very nice. And then moving on to the midsole, you can see that you have a kind of red midsole with like a light yellow and a light orange type of paint speckling across it, which actually looks pretty cool. It's a nice little detail. You can see it says Nike right there pressed into the foam. And then moving on to the outsole, you can see you have your flat indoor bottom outsole. It's like a translucent red material and it lifts up all the way around here, so it's definitely very evident that this is an indoor shoe as opposed to a cleated piece of footwear. It has this very interesting traction pattern that we'll talk about more in just a second, and then one lonesome black Nike swoosh right here in the midfoot. So that's pretty much it as far as the colorway is concerned. And move on next to what this shoe is all about as far as the upper goes. Side by side, as you can tell, it's pretty much impossible to see a difference between the Superfly 4 indoor upper and the firm ground Superfly 4 upper, the standard variation, if you will. I kind of held the shoes in my hand side by side. I inspected both shoes, both inside and out, trying to find a difference. I couldn't find one, so I even put one on one foot, one on the other. And while I will say that the fit of the indoor version is slightly different from that of the firm ground variation, the upper itself is absolutely identical coming from both of these two shoes, which is pretty interesting because we don't normally see that when any company really takes an outdoor model and turns it into an indoor model. There's generally some type of a difference, and with this particular shoe, I really do honestly believe that this is more of an experimentation shoe from Nike as opposed to something that they were considering from the start. I think once they realized that there was going to be such a huge interest in the Superfly 4, the Flyknit upper, the mid-cut design, the one-piece enclosure for your foot, people really got excited. And I always get questions like this: why doesn't Nike make a Vapor indoor? Why doesn't Nike make a CTR 360 Maestri 3 indoor? How come they don't take those top end uppers and put them on an indoor court bottom? And I think that the market for that is fairly limited. Obviously, it would have to be priced higher. This shoe has a retail price of $150, making it the most expensive indoor model by far. As of right now, I know they're sold out, so you can't really buy them, but it is the most expensive indoor shoe currently out there on the market. And I think that that obviously does limit the market. So Nike, like I said, kind of was going for an experiment here. Would people actually be interested in paying that higher premium price tag for a premium product, taking that Superfly 4 upper and putting it on an indoor court outsole? And part of the reason why I think that this is an experiment is because we see ACC, all conditions control, on the upper. If you look at Nike's other two indoor lines, they have the Elastico line as well as the Gato line. The Lunar Gato 2 does not feature ACC. The Elastico Finale 2 does not feature ACC. Why is that? Because it's an indoor court soccer shoe. It's designed for use on indoor courts, whether it be hardwood, tiles, in a gym type of environment where it's not exposed to wet weather, which is what ACC is all about. So essentially what they've done here is they've taken this upper, not made any modifications to it, and they've put it on an indoor court bottom. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that at all. I'm not complaining by any means, but I think that that's that subtle hint that Nike's giving us here that this is something that they probably will move forward now just based on how well it's sold. But I don't think that this is, like I said, was planned out from the very beginning when the Superfly 4 was kind of in the works. So with the Superfly 4 indoor, just like with the Superfly 4, you're getting that one-piece mid-cut Flyknit upper. It's a very, very interesting design. Flyknit, for those that don't know, it's a machine-knitted material made of different types of yarns and synthetic fibers, all to make a one-piece enclosure for your foot. What Nike describes it as is a sock-like fit and a sock-like level of comfort when you're wearing the shoe, and that's something that I can definitely vouch for. To me, the most unique aspect of these one-piece mid-cut Flyknit uppers from Nike is that they don't feel like shoes. It feels like an extension of your body. It feels like you're wearing a pair of socks. It has that very natural sensation where you actually forget that you're wearing shoes, and it does take a little bit of getting used to, I will grant it that, but it definitely is a very interesting concept, and I think once more people have the opportunity to try it out for themselves, most people will be pretty impressed. Some are just going to hate this concept, and some already do hate this concept, but for the most part, I think that if you give this a fair shot, a lot of people will actually like how these shoes feel. Now, in terms of how it looks, obviously this gives the shoe a fairly unique look. The firm ground model definitely does look a little bit funny, I will grant it that, and the indoor model, to me, looks even a little bit goofier. They remind me of like ninja shoes or something like that, because you have this kind of very tight ankle area around your ankle, and then of course a very low profile outsole. So for whatever reason, it just reminds me of like a ninja shoe or something like that. But nonetheless, they are pretty cool looking. Definitely one of the most, if not the most unique looking shoe as far as indoor models are concerned currently out there on the market. But in terms of performance, you have two variations of Flyknit on the upper, all of which are relatively thin, but are also made up of several layers. So in regards to durability and protection, these are going to be pretty much just as protective as a standard pair of Vapor 10s right now, or any of the Mercurial takedowns for that matter, and even the Hypervenom Phantom, I would say, is pretty much on par in terms of the protection that this shoe is going to provide. Although this is an indoor model, so if everybody else is wearing flat soles, protection isn't really that much of a concern with this particular variation like it would be with the outdoor models. So, two variations of Flyknit, like I mentioned. You have the variation that's going to be a little bit more structurally sound, and that's where you're going to have pretty much 90% of your touches on the ball. It's going to be the main area of the upper that's also covered in this clear, thin layer of polyurethane that Nike calls Nike Skin. It's the same top layer we find on the Hypervenom Phantom, the Nike Skin synthetic found on that. I know it's kind of confusing that they have Nike Skin as the synthetic on the Hypervenom Phantom, and they also have Nike Skin as the coating or the top layer on the Superfly 4, as well as the Magista Obra, but I guess stick with me here. Now, the purpose of this Nike Skin top layer is to provide that little bit of additional grip on the ball, as well as act as a protective layer for the upper, both for cleaning purposes as well as durability purposes. And you can see that the actual lip around the top here in the forefoot and toe box area made out of rubber actually comes up a little bit higher. So again, durability doesn't really concern me at this point in time with this particular shoe. It seems like they've taken the logical kind of precautions to make this shoe last as long as possible, even though it is a knit upper. But again, I think this is going to be just as durable, if not more durable, than any other thin synthetic upper currently out there on the market. Now, knitted directly into the upper, you can see you have your Brio cables that tie in with the lacing system to provide that lateral support, along with the kind of tighter knit of the Flyknit material. So while the upper is very thin, while it's very soft and natural, it still feels very supportive and actually is a very responsive shoe overall, which I would expect to be maintained with the indoor variation, because like I said, the upper is the exact same construction, and as long as the traction pattern isn't horrible, which I don't expect it to be, the responsiveness of this shoe should actually be very, very good. Now, the second variation of Flyknit on the upper is going to be the one that does not have the Nike Skin covering. So you can see that you have that around the top of the shoe here, as well as the entire dynamic fit collar area. Now, this area is actually elasticated, so you can see that the top layer Hyper Punch, under layer is a Volt. So again, it's made up of several different layers here. It's not ultra thin. It's not something that's going to rip or break or anything like that. You can stretch this pretty much as far as you want, and it just snaps back into its original shape. Doesn't overstretch, it doesn't tear, it doesn't rip, nothing like that. It's very, very well made. And again, if you're skeptical of the durability, wait till you have these in your hand and you won't be skeptical anymore. Now, what this does is when you put your foot inside, it's going to stretch to the exact shape of your foot and act as like a compression type of sock, and really form to the exact shape and curve of your foot, even without tying the laces. And then when you do tie those laces tight, it's going to pull on these Brio cables that go right to the base of the sole and have that upper wrap your foot as closely as possible, making for a sock-like fit and a sock-like level of comfort, because the Flyknit upper is so soft and flexible from right out of the box. As far as the mid-cut design is concerned, obviously it's a little bit unique. You still do have an internal plastic heel counter, just like you'd find on the standard Superfly 4, the outdoor models, I should say. Then your dynamic fit collar is stretchy in pretty much all directions. It does not feature any plastic or anything like that, and it's there more or less to just create that seamless effect, that one-piece effect when you wear the shoe on your foot. And it doesn't really get in the way. It does have a snug fit against your ankle, but other than that, it's not something that really bothers me. It may take a little bit of getting used to for the first couple times that you wear the shoes, but honestly, for me, after about half an hour of playing, it's something that I forgot about altogether, and certainly did not get in the way when you're actually playing. It's very low profile, and it fits nice and snug to your ankle. So again, it's not getting in the way at all. So that's pretty much it as far as the upper is concerned. And move on next to the outsole and kind of indoor core bottom featured on the Superfly 4 indoor. The outsole and traction pattern definitely doesn't match the revolutionary design of the upper on the Superfly 4, but it definitely does get the job done, and it is something that is exclusive to the Superfly 4 at this point in time. So you can see that in the heel, as well as running through the midfoot area, you have this very thin layer of foam. Now, it's unspecified as to what exactly this foam is, but it does provide some slight cushion. It's still a very low profile shoe as far as indoor soccer shoes are concerned, and you actually do have a little bit of extra foam here in the forefoot as well. So there is some underfoot cushioning, but for the most part, you're going to stay nice and close to the ground, and there isn't a lot under your feet or anything like that. In terms of flexibility, though, again, there is definitely foam there. There's no real plastic in the construction of this outsole, so it's very, very flexible, but in comparison to something like an Elastico Finale 2, which is what I think a lot of people probably want to see this shoe compared to, there definitely is a lot more reinforcement as far as foam and cushioning is concerned in the forefoot area versus something like the Elastico Finale 2, which pretty much has no extra cushioning other than what the insole provides. Speaking of insoles, it is fully removable on the Superfly 4 indoor, and it's again the exact same insole we find on the standard Superfly 4. Mesh liner on top, perforations throughout, and it's made from one single layer of this black foam with those same little lines there just to avoid any kind of slippage on the inside of the shoe, which I don't expect to be a problem because it wasn't a problem with the standard Superfly. Now, obviously, the carbon fiber bottom is a kind of pretty significant feature of the Superfly 4 model, and this does not feature carbon fiber at all. Part of the reason why I think that this retails for $150 as opposed to $275, which is what you're going to pay for the firm ground variation. So again, no carbon fiber in the outsole whatsoever, just some foam, and then obviously the outsole is entirely made of rubber, and you can see that it's like a translucent red color, which looks very cool. And it's a decent thickness as well. You have that nice lip that goes all the way around the forefoot and toe box. So again, durability I don't think is going to be much of a concern here. And as far as the rubber itself goes, it feels nice and solid. And it's got a pretty interesting traction pattern. You can see you have these little circle, I guess is what you would want to call them, I guess. Some are completely hollowed out, as you can see, and then some are filled in with these little kind of pieces in the middle. When I first saw it, it reminded me a lot of the LeBron 11 traction pattern. I guess it's somewhat similar, at least to me. For those that don't know, the LeBron 11 is a basketball shoe, but there it is. That's the traction pattern on there, and here's the traction pattern on the Superfly 4. So to me, at least, I thought they looked somewhat similar, so I would expect the performance to be at least somewhat decent on this particular shoe. It does feel like a very high quality rubber that should perform well on indoor court playing surfaces, but again, because it is more of a rugged traction pattern, it's not particularly delicate. I don't see why this would cause any issues to use this on a street type of environment, outdoors or anything like that, on concrete or something. Yes, it will wear away the outsole more quickly, but in terms of it wearing away in just a couple days, like you might find from some of Nike's other indoor models that have very kind of thin rubber outsoles, like I said, this one feels fairly dense, the rubber feels high quality, and the traction pattern is relatively thick. So if you really did want to use this for street soccer or something like that, I don't see why they wouldn't last at least a decent amount of time. Although again, please keep in mind that if you use any indoor soccer shoe outdoors, the durability of the shoe is definitely going to be compromised, and they just simply won't last as long as if you were to wear them strictly on indoor court playing surfaces. In terms of weight, while the Firm Ground Superfly 4 isn't the lightest shoe around, it's still pretty light around the 7-ounce mark in a size 9 US. With the Superfly 4 indoor, I can't really say the same, and that's not necessarily a bad thing either. So I'm going to weigh this pair for you today in real time. Keep in mind this is a brand new pair in a size 9 US. I'm going to throw it on the scale, and you can see that they weigh in at 8.6 ounces, so about 1.6 ounces more than the standard Superfly 4 in the firm ground variation. So there's a pretty significant weight increase. By no means is this a heavy shoe. It's still relatively lightweight as far as indoor shoes go. Obviously, you're going to get a much lighter weight package from the Elastico Finale 2, but that's also because it's a much more low-profile model, especially when it comes to the outsole in comparison to the Superfly 4. But again, like I mentioned, they've implemented that same outdoor upper on this particular shoe, which is not something we normally see from a pair of indoors. And also, like I mentioned, you do get some decent cushioning from the foam through the midsole, or the outsole I should say, and then the entire traction pattern features a fairly dense and fairly thick rubber. So again, durability is not going to be a concern here. So overall, I would honestly accept the little bit of extra weight that they've implemented on the Superfly 4 just to have better quality, better cushioning, better comfort, and of course, better durability. Alright, here's a look at the Superfly 4 indoors on feet, and obviously it has that mid-cut design, so it is going to look a little bit different from a standard pair of indoor shoes. People will ask you questions when you wear them, I guarantee that. But in terms of how they feel pretty good. I will say that they don't feel quite as naturally flexible from right out of the box as the standard Superfly 4 does, mainly because that foam outsole is a little bit thicker. It's not quite as flexible from right out of the box, but after a couple hours of break-in time, I'm sure they will feel a lot better. As I mentioned earlier, there is a slight difference in terms of how these shoes fit versus the standard Superfly 4 as well. To me, these feel a little bit narrower and slightly more shallow in terms of how they fit. It's not quite as deep of a fit as what you're going to get from the standard Superfly. And again, I'm going to attribute this to that foam outsole that you have on this particular shoe. And again, Nike kind of just put an outdoor upper on an indoor outsole. So it's kind of an interesting thing. It doesn't feel bad by any means, but it doesn't feel quite as kind of seamless and streamlined and just really like everything is supposed to be there like you're going to get with the standard Superfly 4. It's not a bad sensation, but it isn't quite as good as what I experienced from the standard firm ground variation, so please just keep that in mind. Other than that though, it has a nice, comfortable, flexible feel as far as the upper is concerned, the exact same heel liner on the inside of the shoe, and the dynamic fit collar is just as flexible, has a nice snug fit, and doesn't get in the way or feel uncomfortable by any means at all. So again, in terms of width, it is more narrow cut. It's a lot more shallow than what you're going to find from a standard pair of Superflies. So if you have wide feet, it's probably best to stay away from this model, just like it would be to stay away from the rest of the Mercurial line. But other than that, as long as you don't have, like I said, wide feet, these should fit you quite comfortably. In terms of sizing, I'm wearing my usual size 9 US, and the fit and the length is absolutely perfect. So just like the standard Superfly 4, if you are interested in ordering a pair of these for yourself, I would strongly recommend going true to size. Alright guys, that's it for my unboxing of the Nike Mercurial Superfly 4. Definitely a very interesting release from Nike, and I'm curious to try them out to see how they are going to perform. Obviously it does feature the same upper as the standard Superfly 4, so I already know most of the way, 90% I would say, as to how this shoe is going to feel. But as far as that outsole and traction pattern is concerned, I'm going to be testing it out over the next few weeks, and of course we'll follow up with a full written review and even some comparison videos between the perhaps the Elastico Finale 2, if enough of you guys are interested. If you are, leave a comment down below and let me know. Other than that, if you guys want to check out the review page on my website, you can find the high quality images of the shoes just to give you a better idea as to how they actually do look in person. There are a ton of images online of this shoe. And other than that, guys, like I mentioned, unfortunately buy it now links are just not something that I'm going to have because they're not really available anywhere. They sold out pretty much the first day that they were released. So again, if you're interested in a pair, your best bet is to just sit tight and wait for future colorways. Other than that though, guys, if you enjoyed today's video, be sure to support it with a like. Subscribe if you haven't already for daily videos on all the latest and greatest soccer gear. As always, if you have any questions or suggestions for videos you'd like to see, be sure to leave those down below in the comments as well. Other than that though, guys, all of my social media information is down below in the description. And other than that, hope you enjoyed today's video, and as always, thanks for watching.